and welcome everybody to my channel, Savings by the Cup. On today's video, we're going to be talking about debt payoff. As you guys saw in my last video, I did a small introduction to myself and my age, how much we make, all that stuff. But I figured that today it would be a great idea for me to go over where my finances are at when it comes to debt and what my goals are for 2026. So if you're interested, please continue watching this video. Like I mentioned in this video specifically, I'm going to be covering the debt part of my finances. I'm hoping that in the future I'll actually be able to make a video too where I can talk a little bit more about my net worth. But for now, that's what we're going to be talking about today. I also wanted to apologize because while we were at Disneyland, I did actually catch a cold, so I am a little bit nasally. So if you hear that in my voice, I'm very sorry about that. Alright, so without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. So right now, in order for me to track my debt, I'm going to be using this debt payoff tracker. This tracker is actually something that I created and I have it available on my Etsy page, so I'll go ahead and link it down below if you're interested in using it. The reason it only has 3 columns is because right now I pretty much only have 3 areas where I have debt, or me and my husband have debt. And so that's pretty much what I'm going to be outlining on here. However, if you download it and pay for it, I think the template itself is only like $2. Obviously, you can reuse it, print as many copies as you need, or you can even use it on your iPad as much as you need to track as many as, different columns as you need on here. So let's go ahead and get started about talking about the debt that I have. The very first debt that we have is actually a credit card that is under my name. I'm going to go ahead and put that on here, my credit card. Even though this is technically my credit card, it's under my name like I mentioned. The reason that we have debt on here is actually due to my husband paying for his tuition. Fortunately, he is going to a local community college, so tuition wasn't actually that bad, and we have already paid quite a bit onto this amount. But as it stands right now, the balance on the credit card that we have that was used for that specifically is at $1,237.44. And I checked what my interest rate was earlier on this credit card, and currently it's standing at 20.74%. The interest rate is very, very high, and the minimum payment that we have due on this credit card is $34 a month, which is what I budget for. Obviously, if we can, I try to throw any extra money towards it because we're trying to get rid of debt, but that's where we're at right now. The next debt that we have is actually a credit card that's under my husband's name, so we're going to go ahead and call this one husband's credit card. And on this one, the balance is actually a little bit higher. It's $3,632.27. The interest rate on this credit card is also a little bit higher. It is currently at 28.74%. I had him send me the details on this as well, just so that I had an accurate idea. And the minimum payment on this one, since the balance is a little bit higher, is $130 a month. So that is our second debt. The last debt that we have is my medical debt, which, as I mentioned, technically is the only real debt that I have at the moment. If it weren't because of my husband's schooling and stuff like that, we wouldn't have either of these either. I forgot to explain that this credit card right here, the balance is very high because my husband did have to use this credit card to purchase books, as well as purchase things like uniform and a few other things in preparation for school, so that kind of made this balance go up. I think there was also some additional spending in there that might have made the balance go up a little bit, but either way, we're trying to pay both of these off. They're both tied to my husband's school, but the medical debt, that one is on me. I do unfortunately have a medical plan where I have to pay like a high amount of deductible when I go to the doctor. And until I reach that deductible, that's kind of when my insurance starts kicking in. So even though I don't go to the doctor a lot, whenever I do, I end up with a pretty hefty bill. So that's why the medical bill one right here, the balance on this one is $1,659.58. Now this one, the good thing is the interest rate is at 0%. And my minimum payment that I do every month is $50. In reality, I think the minimum payment required from me is about $25, but I've budgeted for $50 because I'd like to pay this off sooner than later. Obviously, when it comes to debts, this is probably the one that we have the most urgency on because it has a higher percent interest. This one's the lowest priority because I know that they're not going to charge me and I'm already doing over the amount that I'm supposed to. But let's go ahead and add 3 of these up to see what the total debt for all 3 of them are. So I'm going to go ahead and pull over my calculator. Hopefully you guys can see that. And we'll go ahead and add 3 of them up. So the first one, $1,237.44 plus $3,632.27 and $1,659.58. That brings our total to $6,529.29. So I'm gonna go ahead and put that amount right here, $6,529.29. And so the goal, guys, is for me to track the dates that I am going to make payments, the amount that I pay off, and what the new balance is on here. So I'm going to go ahead and track that, and once we finish paying everything off, we'll be able to put the payoff date here. So now, guys, on to another important question. Since we do have such a big balance, the question that a lot of you might be wondering is, how do I plan to pay all this off? So I'm gonna go ahead and kind of make some notes here. What is going to be our debt pay off plan? And so on here, I'm going to write a few of the things that I plan on doing to help us pay off this debt, hopefully this upcoming year. So to begin, the very first thing that I want to do is throw any extra money towards debt. This is a little bit of a challenge because, as I explained in the introduction video, my husband is only working 1 day a week at the moment while he's in school. However, this should change coming around May or June. So once he's able to make a little bit more money, we should be able to pretty much pay everything off. But meanwhile, my goal is still to throw any extra money that we have towards debt. This is going to include anything like bonuses, and if we get any type of tax refund. Our goal is to throw some extra money towards these debts to hopefully lower everything, including the interest rate on both of these cards that have interest. Something too that hopefully will help is that usually coming around the springtime, my job usually does a market increase raise. So I'm hoping that if I get a raise, that's going to help me be able to throw some extra money towards it. The next thing that I'm considering doing at the moment, I'm not really sure, is maybe taking money out of my savings. So using money from savings to pay it off. Realistically speaking, at the moment, I do have enough savings to pay off that balance. However, I do have my money currently in what is called a CD account with Bank of America. This just allows me to be able to benefit from getting higher interest. However, as many of you have probably done, I have watched Dave Ramsey where he talks about outweighing basically what you're getting paid in interest versus what you're paying in interest, which is why maybe I would consider actually just using the money to pay it off. I'm still in the moment trying to weigh both of those things out and decide what's best, but hopefully I can make a decision, and if so, maybe use the money towards paying it off. This is something my husband suggested, and I honestly think it's probably not a bad idea because as it stands, like I said, we are losing some money because of the interest that we're getting charged. So anyways, even though it can be kind of hard to let go of this much money, I'll keep you guys posted on what I decide. I feel like this probably is going to end up being the best option for us, and then after that extra money would just go back into savings, but I don't know, we'll see how that goes. The last way that I would like to continue to contribute more towards my debt is to maybe try to increase my income. As it stands at the moment, I am trying to do YouTube as a side hustle. Obviously right now I'm still a very new channel and I don't have very many followers, but I'm hoping that as time progresses, hopefully I'll be able to increase my income, and then that should help us be able to pay some of that debt. With that in mind, the next thing that I would like to talk about in this video is what are my 2026 goals. So I'm going to note that down on this side, 2026 goals, specifically, I guess financially, and a couple other things. The very first goal tied to what we were just talking about is pay off all debt. So that is our number one goal this year. The next one is I would like to rebuild our savings. What do I mean by that? As I mentioned, at the moment I do have a good amount of savings, or we both, me and my husband, I guess, have a good amount of savings. If we use some of that to pay our debt off, obviously that balance would go lower. The other thing too is that we do have a few upcoming vacations coming up this year in 2026. As y'all saw in some of my earlier videos, I went to Disneyland this year, and also we're going to go to Panama. Obviously both of these trips are quite expensive, so I'm hoping that I'll be able to rebuild up some of these savings to kind of make up for some of the spending that we're doing, and if we decide to pay off our debt. Now the next goal that I have, as I had mentioned in another video, is I would like to start investing money. I feel like to some degree I kind of already do this because I have money in a CD account. Now that's not necessarily invested, but I am making my money work. And I will say this, like, it is very addicting when you see that money continue to grow. So I'm hoping that maybe if I start investing my money, I'll be able to see that at a greater scale. So that's another one of my goals. Our fourth goal for this year is to hopefully complete the 100 envelope challenge. So you'll notice I have the 100 envelope challenge here. I actually bought this on Amazon. I'll go ahead and link this below if you guys like it. If you guys haven't noticed, one of my favorite colors is purple. I tend to gravitate a lot towards purple and pink. I guess it's more pastels. But if I go to the very back, you'll notice that I was able to partially complete this last year. I think I ended up maybe getting close to $500, but my goal is to actually finish filling this out in 2026, so hopefully I can actually do that. But anyways, I'll keep you posted on how that goes. And my last goal is, like I mentioned in my debt payoff plan, is to increase my income. So hopefully I can do this through raises at work. Like I said, we get a market increase, but also I want to try to see if I can talk to my boss about getting another raise. But aside from that too, I would also like to increase my income through side hustles like YouTube. And so if I can, obviously that will help me be able to have a little bit more money to work with to be able to do some of the previous goals. But anyways, guys, those are all my goals for 2026. If you would like to see my journey this year on growing my YouTube channel, paying off my debt, building up my savings, investing, please feel free to follow and subscribe. I'll definitely try to post a little bit more regularly. I am really trying to start the year off being more regular when it comes to my YouTube channel, so please, like I said, follow and subscribe if you're interested in this type of content. Otherwise, I'll go ahead and see you in. Bye.